Hi, and welcome back to the third session. Today, we are going to talk of travel, of fashion, of working with influencer, working omni-channel, how to deal with the different people composing the marketing team of a company. And for this, we are going to talk to have as a guest a wonderful person who now he is the UK SEO lead for TUI. And not so many months ago, she was the global SEO lead of Kurt Geiger, and she has worked with many other wonderful brands. And she is a good friend of mine, and surely you are going to recognize her. Hi, Maria, how are you doing?
Hi, Gianluca. Hi, thank you for having me.
Just a quick entry question that I do to every guest. How SEO is treating you in these weird, strange days?
Oof, what a time to work in SEO. Definitely have noticed change completely. There's been a significant change being in house and being in retail. It's been a significant change in how SEO is perceived, how SEO is now from being something nice to have, which I've heard with, from other retailers and other in-house friends, to now panicking about organic traffic and area reviews. So there's been a significant change in how retailers see SEO, basically.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's
yes.
the best time for me. It went from fashion to travel. It is one of the most transformative years for SEO I have ever seen.
Let's try to see the good side and see that you are living an exciting moment also for being an SEO. So, because we have to rethink things, how we do our job. So, to consider how Google search is changing, how other search environments are starting to influence and make the search behavior what people change. So let's talking about travel, which is a sector that I also have the pleasure to have work with right now. We saw that AI overview, especially, is all the stats are telling this to us. Also, the studies from Advanced Web Ranking is telling this to us that okay, you can obtain good visibility, but that this visibility is not translated into organic traffic. You, as an SEO, in this situation, which is somehow a zero-click SERP situation on steroid, maybe you also started to experience the AI overview impact before changing from retail to travel. What kind of ideas, of tactics, or even strategies are you started to think and to reason in your head?
Well, um, there's been this is a story that we're dealing in SEO, not just in travel, but it's something I've seen since I was in fashion. And the story is that, which is, it leads me to a question, a very popular question I hear, not only in my current job, but I've been hearing for the past year. And that is visibility. When visibility, you can be the lead and your brand, my previous brand, Corgado, was the lead in visibility for its niche. And I can say that my current work is, and all of that. But then the story is as well that we're seeing is that not necessarily that visibility reflects on the rest of the metrics, on impact necessarily on the rest of the metrics. In my previous job, we could see the story was high impressions year on year, stable rankings. We were number one for every single branded term. And for some non-branded terms as well, there were great rankings, great positioning. However, year on year, clicks were behind, CTR was behind. Sometimes we could have the story of impressions were perhaps flat year on year, but there was an increase in clicks. So this led me to creating a dashboard last year because we wanted to understand why traffic, organic traffic, clicks in particular were on a constant decline year on year. And this is where I learned that we need to have forcefully had to learn other factors that were affecting our organic traffic, and not just as an SEO. I couldn't just say it depends. If I say in my previous job, if I had said it depends, yeah, no great. It depends, no. Or what else? I couldn't blame just the algorithm. I couldn't blame anything else. It is having the data to understand what is going on and work on that, find solution to that. So last year I created a dashboard with paid. This was a dashboard where I needed to have data from paid and organic to first of all see if we were being cannibalized by paid. That was the first time when I started working with paid, like daily. So we had a set of keywords and we had this dashboard where we had paid and organic to see impressions, click, costs, another metric. And the story at the time was, the first story was like, yes, we are perhaps abusing of paid, and when we overbid on terms that perhaps don't need excessive investment, obviously we're affecting organic. So we started running tests. That was the first thing. And then sometimes we saw throughout the year that metrics across paid and organic were a little bit behind. And even if we were switching of perhaps a little bit of the cost on the investment in certain keywords, we were not seeing that being picked up by organic then. And it was at some times of the year, specific times. So at that point, it was then not just working with paid, we needed to add an extra layer. And that was looking at search volumes. All of this came from brainstorms and things that little hack days that we had as an SEO team at the time with other teams, and find out what else could be affecting organic. So this led us to look at search volumes of paid, search volumes in various social networks and Google to understand which more of like journey of our customers, when is it starting, what type of queries are touching where, what happens next in Google. And that took us to understand that, yes, last year, that a good chunk of our queries, informational and educational queries, which is a consideration stage in the purchasing journey, was starting in social networks. So now we have the data. So now it's like find out which queries and things were explored elsewhere, and then work from there. Whether do we need FAQs in some of our pages? Maybe, but maybe because the brand we couldn't have FAQs or a dedicated in the landing page. So maybe it was a thing of like, well, what if exploring other techniques? These FAQs, we need to have them, maybe create them on video, on images, turn them into piece of content with influencers. What I've learned from the past year to now is about not just being reactive, but having to have the time to sit down and find other avenues and look at your data, run tests, work with other teams, listen. Something that I do now still is look at the reports, weekly reports, if you have them in your company, of CRM, all the marketing channels, to see what they're doing, results on spikes on searches, and what is the effect of that on search and therefore in organic. Because sometimes we might have spikes, declines, etc. So just have a look, constantly explore, and not just stick to, oh, it was the algo. We don't know, or it depends, or stuff like that. No, just constantly look at data and other channels,
Yes, I totally
other
agree. I
things.
mean, also because we know that these the search behavior and the messy middle or whatever you want to call it is really, really not something that starts and ends inside Google. So, for my experience, notice it that the trigger can be anything, can be something that is even happening just outside the door of your apartment. And you meet with your neighbor and is wearing a pair of sneakers that you love, and then you start the
Yeah.
search journey. But and also that a classic loop of consideration, of exploration, consideration, can start in Google, go out of Google, return on to Google, go out again from Google, and even use offline channels like analogical channels, TV. So really is what we see, even if maybe us SEO tends to, we were so used to think about everything moving around SEO, around organic, as because Google was like the sun and we were the ones telling how the sun is moving. And actually never was so. So we
Yeah.
are returning to what the reality is. And maybe this is the reality with it always has been. SEO is just a part of the game, and the game is marketing. And I then think that you are seeing also this in travel because travel is even more, it's like obviously different types of things than retail, but it's the same kind of emotional needs, of experience need, of aspiration needs that are moving people to choose, let's say, Benidorm versus, I don't know, some exotic place in the Caribbean or in the Polynesia. So I think that this experience that you had with retail, so to connect with, to work hand in hand with other channels, I'm sure that you are seeing that it's maybe the best thing also for travel. I'm wondering, what would you suggest to SEO that maybe never was so used to collaborate with others, to productively collaborate with others?
If now is you have to, that's bad. Is the results, search result pages are becoming hyper, hyper, and all the tests you want to use, prefix you want to use, hyper, hyper, whatever, personalized. So intent matter most than ever, and understanding your various segments. Your this is where understanding your customers, what age they are, and within each each bracket, understand the type of content they consume, and be present there. Pretty much, SEO is the search optimization. It's not just at this stage just on Google as well because it's not an ecosystem. There are things we can't stay 24/7 and rely on Google for everything. I like video. Google can't give me video at the moment, and maybe try it, but no. I love going to TikTok. I love like some of the uh, products I bought and clothing are because I saw an idea, I saw something on TikTok, and then I carry on watching more videos on that, and then finally I'm like, okay, now let's start looking at pricing and go to Google. And then I don't find pretty much what I like and go back to TikTok to find for alternatives. So it's understanding the search journey of your customer segments and be present where they consume content. And for that, it's a yes or yes, you're gonna have to work with other teams. If it's TikTok, you're gonna have to work with social media. If you're a small business, right? And you're, let's say, little bakery or a florist, right? That don't have big TikTok and presence, maybe start playing around with paid and maybe optimizing, working on Google Business Profile, optimizing. That's not the right word, but like having products, content on Google Business Profile, and find other alternatives that work for you as a small business, right? But just focusing on SEO, like what it used to be, just like writing my blog post, writing a little landing page here, having one or two links that might not be relevant, but we just need a couple of links and that's it. No. Then if that's a strategy, then you could be one of many people which story is year on year, impressions are high, rankings are stable, clicks and click-through rate are way behind year on year and continue to decline.
I completely agree with you, Maria, about what you have said. But I want to talk now about another topic that became quite fashionable in the last 6 months amongst the SEO community, which is brand. I mean, brand in the terms of not brand style, not brand voice, not, but how of branded searches. So having you work, especially in the category during 3 years, which surely has most high level fashion brands, really lives on brand, on the exposition of a brand. First of all, what you understood about the importance of brand that maybe you already know, but knew before, but this experience you understood even better. Second, how you as an SEO collaborated with all the other channels, all the other partners in-house of Kurtgeier, for instance, in obtaining and conquering all the brand search ecosystem for your brand.
So for a brand, I used to work, our products were sold in other places, in other concessions. It was the key, our main KPI to dominate the search results with our websites, because it wasn't only one, it's several. So this is as well where we had to work together with as the not only digital marketing with other channels, um, PR, editorial, and they have the campaigns and SEO supporting with relevancy. So all of the links were making sure our landing pages were fully optimized, especially on metrics which at the time were the- every SEO was on top of, which was Core Web Vital back in 2020, 21, in those years, making sure that, because our websites were image led, making sure that that wouldn't affect speed and have a snowfall effects on the rest of the metrics. But yeah, making sure from an SEO point of view, it's just relevancy and congruency, knowing what other channels are doing. Sometimes some channels can be close and they want to keep their work to themselves. So as SEO, that's our main um, challenge, is building relationships and establishing clear, regular communications with other departments in order to understand what they're doing and focus what is the message of every monthly campaign or every yearly campaign. What is the main message? And from there, us as SEO being congruent and making sure our content or links or our links themselves follow that message as well. So it's all about congruency, relevancy, and integration with other departments that we build together a strong brand. And yeah, because it could happen, not just on ours, but we would see with other brands, which obviously I'm not going to mention here, which products were sold, let's say, by Selfridges. And when you will look for that product, Selfridges will be on top, and the brand would be around one position or even two positions down on top of a concession. And for us, it was not an option. We have to be dominant in terms of search results, which at the time, we're talking still 1 year in the UK, so the search result pages for fashion were different to what you have now. So we still had a combination of type results and traditional blue link results. Now it's a completely different thing. So so yeah, it's
Yes, in fact, I imagine
mm,
that, especially in the transactional queries, what maybe have impacted the most is the increased presence of merchant on the search results for transactional query. And I mean, I think that this is also SEO. So merchant, organic merchant is
yeah,
also SEO. How much you were able to, because I know sometimes from personal experience that being merchant a mix between
worry.
organic and paid merchant a shopping, two different names for the same thing. Sometimes it's difficult to make understand who must or that the two departments should collaborate together. For instance, for maybe silly things, if we are
Mm,
talking like maybe paid would use in merchant images with embedded messages for incentivizing the CTR and the click-through rate in shopping, but that same image are meant to be used for merchant. And we know that for merchant, you cannot use image with text embedded on.
Yeah.
So sometimes how eventually, if you had a situation like this or other similar, were you able to create a common tongue, a common way to work within you and the paid marketing team?
How we had to, this is where the skills of an SEO, I learned in the skills of an SEO are not just the core we know, which is the learning links, content, technical, and that's it. I'm learning presentations and pivot tables and things like that. That's when I was in that environment, I'm so grateful to have been there because it was right. We believe this is the story. We believe these scenarios could be happening, could be cannibalization with paid, could be some tests. I remember what was it that thing that was run last year? I forgot. Where Google tried to turn the page for fashion into kind of like a mini landing page. I forgot the
Yes, I don't remember the name, but yes, it was
yeah,
something that it was presented in some of the search only things that events that Google present, but it was a really short lived.
yeah. So it was basically understanding from that understanding that we had of what is affecting organic. So now is just suggest where we pay. And they could have been like, yeah, but SEO, what are we going to do? Is that's when as SEO, you have to put and work on case studies, translate what you want to do into what is the potential loss or what could be the benefit in terms of revenue, in terms of traffic. And then is when you, I presented case studies, and then we all kind of agreed that, yeah, we need to work together. We established a workflow page and SEO working together. We then classified that bunch of traffic, paid and organic, as traffic from Google. Just so in our weekly meetings, he was like, we would talk about the whole traffic from the search result pages to Google. What are we getting? And that is not like, right, let's talk about SEO and let's talk about paid. Not like, right, we've got 5-10 minutes to present on a weekly meeting on traffic coming from Google. And that was I just suggest we need to work together and say, right, the message this week was X, Y, or Z, and this was presented into these campaigns on email, messages, and paid follow with this, and SEO follows with that, and then we put in the whole picture together. So that's how I learned working with paid, and no, that was not only that, also development and developers as well, key part as well. Because you could have the perfect romantic relationship with all the marketing channels, but we wanted to make changes such as structured data or looking at site architecture, like information architecture and looking at site architecture on the side of things that now just set to the development zone. That as well is like, how we're going to get them on board to get these changes that we want to implement done. And that, well, it is something that I learned how to kind of work with, and which is I still do that, working with paid, working with social or marketing channels for all top develop. Because obviously, if you have a great relationship with them, but you can't communicate with development, or you come with your attitude of I want things by yesterday, they're gonna be like, yeah, no, and that could be a blocker. So it's basically every blocker you're getting into getting your work done and improve organic, or that's basically the vision. That's your job as a CEO, is to impact positively as much as you can organic traffic, not visibility, organic traffic, then whatever it takes, you know? And that,
And
sorry, a big brand, but as with small businesses as well, if you don't have like going back to a florist or a banker, if you don't have like all of the things to do like social pay display, blah 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 and blah blah blah, is trying several techniques like, well, maybe we have a piece of budget or we paid, let's see what happens. We do create one little message with the person that runs the TikTok, which could be the daughter of the owner, and then kind of create like a little workflow as well where you try as SEO to work with different things and the impact organic traffic positively. Because yes, organic is the channel that is the most vulnerable of all channels to be affected for by internal things in your website and your company, but also mainly external things. So it's a very vulnerable channel. You can't just stay passive and with one thing like, and then on top of that, it's just creating a little blog post here and there, or altering a little page here and there with a couple of links, and that's that. And God knows if it's relevant or not. Just doing it because that's what you learned 10 years ago or a few years ago, and that's the gives you some visibility, gives you some stable rankings. But that's that, then no, then you're going to be, as I said, as part of the statistics of many brands and many small businesses where visibility is super high and you're the leader, but that is not giving you money. So that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily translate into money. And if work for a big company, that you're going to have a question. What does visibility mean? What does that entail? Why am I not, if I'm the leader on visibility, why am I not, why clicks year on year are behind? That's the big company. But your little flower is going to be like, yeah, it's not working, is it? Like, I'm not getting sales or I'm not getting any leads. So, it's basically in terms of SEO, it's like not just sticking into one metric, visibility or impressions and rankings. Oh, I've got stable rankings. Yeah, but clicks are behind. Or yeah, but CTR or why, you know? And just work from there.
Yeah, yes. And returning to the collaboration with developers,
Mm.
and surely it was really important for you because as you were saying before,
So,
okay, it was the, let's say, the excuse of core web vitals, but I mean, a
yeah.
fashion website is strongly depending on image or even video.
Mm.
So in that case, and I was thinking it's a question, honest question that I have, how much advantage of, apart from the classic way improving core web vitals, so optimizing image, so we have stronger and bigger conversion rate. But on the other hand, I don't know if this was something you work on, but I was wondering what all this working on image optimization, so image SEO,
Mm.
probably also in on visual search. What kind of experience, of kind of results you had from this usually neglected field of image and visual search? We just saw a few weeks ago in Google AO that how much Google is pushing Lens. And
Yes.
we know that Lens is poor visual search. And also Project Astra is even, we could call Project Alpha as a Google Lens on steroids. And what was your experience with image, with visual search on a website, for a website of a brand
Mhm.
so depending on the visual marketing?
This is, I've been working on image optimizations even before Core Geiger. I used to work an agency that had pretty much every single florist in the UK. That was amazing. One of the agencies for small businesses, primarily florists, owned a lovely guy that came from a florist background, and he didn't want to be a florist, but he wanted to remain in the business. So he became a developer and created this agency. In websites for florists, obviously, images are key. right? That's pretty much one of the main conversion factors when a customer lands into a page. It's like the and obviously the price as well and delivery. But first is the image. So one of the things I've learned that we need to have in place, right? And not always is possible again, not because of the SEO department or the SEO person, but because development constraint. There might be even if you work with local authorities and they have their website is being hosted by an external place or an agency that don't have control. Maybe the developers might not have the ability or the capabilities to do the changes that they need to do on to optimize an image. So what is other elements I have been working ever since we're talking 2018 to now, are basically making the images accessible. Start with thinking of making these images accessible for um, some impairments, visual impairments, and by that you work with image source, detailing the images. That can also and just remember that these elements are not for you to harm the with commercial keywords. The images, Florist by Florist Egg in London, and no, it's describing nicely the image for someone who might not be able to see it properly, someone who needs help, right? So you start with that, and that can also be an opportunity as well for content as well if you do it carefully. Remember first feature of the person that you're helping to understand the image. Second, then creating image sitemaps as well. At the time we were led in my previous job, we were led by the example most brands wants to be, which is Chanel. At the time, Chanel a beautiful image sitemap. And so I think they still have it. It is very interesting. The sitemap keeps changing. I keep looking at the sitemap and the robots TXT just for fun. And so these have this beautiful image, super, very well organized image sitemap on the site. And also on the URLs, kind of describing ever so carefully and elegantly, you like this Chanel, they needed to maintain a certain line as with their content. So describing as well sub subtly what the image is about. So there are several ways to optimize the image from a content point of view. Obviously, there is speed and rendering and all of that that comes into place. And all of that dead resource. But also as well, that was by then, we're talking 2018, 2019 to, I was working with this um, image source code, image map, being careful with the URLs. And from around 2022, I started working with marking images with schema, with structured data, right, as well. Again, be careful, right? Use all of these, overuse these resources. One should be a complement of the other. And it's not a chance for you to spam the hell of the page with, let's say, florist in London, having everywhere. And no, one have to be a complement of the other. URL of the image should perhaps held, it's like a little library. Say what the image is located, what is part of, and follow a nice path, harmonic path. And then structured data, for example, when in the homepage for some campaigns, I'm talking about my previous job, sometimes the homepage had to be one picture because that was the campaign. Not for the entire year. That's very interesting with fashion. Which I remember an SEO, very grumpy SEO that I absolutely love, John Anderson. He used to say that fashion brands were pedantic and petulant for just having an image. But that is not by it. Sometimes this is when, as well, it is all a brand message of that. Just following the strategy. Sometimes for certain campaigns, the image had the homepage had to be like pretty much like a magazine, to give that feeling. And that was a trend for some brands like Gucci, Chanel, hours. We fell into that a little bit, but not because we kind of didn't like it. Um, But yeah, for example, if your image is going to be, if your front page, for example, is just going to be one image, then obviously you can't afford not having content like tags and your like what? Not like no. So that's when we heavily relied on Slate as well.
It's interesting, and I think that
Yeah,
maybe one of the dashboard most viewed dashboard was also the image filter dashboard in Search Console.
yeah.
And let's go with a last question, and it's related to not to Google, but to these new environments like Perplexity, like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, a resurgence for certain types of things, also Bing, because of use of Copilot. And do you start to see into what kind of, if there are overlaps between people using Google and LLMs,
Mm.
or you see maybe, let's say, because maybe you have access to CRM data, which is also translating from where the person is landing, so into demographics. If you see some sort of, let's say, different demographics between people
Mm.
landing on your site from an LLM and people landing from your site from Google. Because one thing is true, LLMs, they are not bringing a lot of traffic, but it's
Mm.
a common talk that usually the quality of the traffic from LLMs is bigger. Did you have the possibility to confirm this sort of rumor? I don't want to say define it as a urban legend because probably surely it's not a urban legend, but let's say to confirm what is something that people share on social and with some blog post into something that you also saw in your data.
One of the things with the whole LLMs and ChatGPT and all of these changes that have been happening over the past year, we need to be careful as to where we focus our efforts, because our marketing efforts, and especially when you get it from everywhere in the not only the company but in industry posts and conferences that everyone goes to in every level, like C-level to operational level. We go to events and all you see is AI and chat and all these big statements that LLMs are going to replace Google, and obviously that create panic. So one of the things that we had to do first, and so I'm very proud to say in my current company, I I brought that. I'm a bit of a data nerd. Is a dashboard as well. First of all, to clarify how much traffic and understand our organic traffic, how much traffic comes from LLMs versus traditional organic. And then once we see the traffic coming from LLMs, certainty and well, let's much as we can on certainty, but then it's look at what is the behavior of these people that comes from gives me from NNN. So yeah, from there it was first that get that clarification and then move our efforts and campaigns and all of that. Yes, many companies probably and it's been said in post. Yes, we found similar figures to what is being said at one big 99.0507 is comes from traditional search engines, right? And the rest, which is zero point 0.3, zero point 0.5, it varies as well, it doesn't go more than zero point 0.7, right? It comes from LLMs, which from that, 90% of this, a big chunk, 85% that comes, 85, 87 that comes from Google. So the chances that for now, I think uh, LLMs replacing Google might not happen in the near future, as in the next 5 years. I also read some of the posts by a lady and other people where recently they spoke about a projection of market share of Google in the next 5 years. I think, yeah, by 2030 or something like that. And they say that by still Google is going to be like the main traffic, stating 50% of market share coming from Google, and not so much, you would say, a 45 or something from LLMs. No, it then the rest kind of changes from to different sources. So what changes have I seen? I think the people that comes from LLMs, what they looking, which is essentially what Google is doing now with AI mode, is that level of easiness and hyper personalization and a clean experience that they could have by booking an experience or buying a product. Basically, simplicity without having to overwhelm the customer, like, for example, a handbag, a specific model, right? And I see it on TikTok, and I'm so influenced that I'm in love with that bag, let's say from Coach. I'm looking for a bag from Coach for a while now. Can't bloody find it. And then, so I see that bag on TikTok and I'm like, I really want it. So I come to Google and it's overwhelming because I get top ads and it's like just you're really when you really want something, you're studying there on Google, finding and searching and trying different variants of the query because you want the product, you're being influenced, you want that. So I reckon what I'm seeing is that the people going to ChatGPT is because they just want simplicity and someone basically that to give the results to the customer that among all this library of results and different ads, just give me what I need. So does that product exist or that service exist in the UK near me without having to like, oh shit, like, oh, maybe if I try that query, or maybe if I try another query, or and then abandoning altogether because the results are overwhelming. I think what I see is there is no, because again, ChatGPT doesn't bring the most accurate results at the moment when people are looking for an experience or for a product. It's like gives you, even if you have to be very specific on the prompt, and the results you get are not what you really are looking for. And then again, it's like being on Google, but with large prompts, because like I want a bag that is X, Y, Z, or I want an experience that include all of these diseases, and and then the links that come back, it's not really what you were asking for. So it's the yeah, I think it's just hyper. If people go into LLMs just because they're looking for a clean, straight to the point experience without having to waste time navigating into links or irrelevancy and cleaning manually irrelevancy and all of those bad results that are out there. Especially if you, for example, are looking for, I don't know, information about a certain condition. I'm talking now about medical stuff, and you go into Google and then you get what? A bunch of weird results sometimes, and then you into a specific result and it's full of affiliates and links and it's unreadable. So yeah, I think that's what the people going these days to LLMs is just for a cry on clean experiences and relevancy.
Yes, I think that you are right in the sense that, and this is maybe another hatchet for information or query on Google, in the sense that I think that people goes on ChatGPT
Mm.
because they have a question, but don't know. It's like when returning to visual search. Sometimes you use visual search because you don't know how to say in words the things that you need. I always do the classic plumber type of query that you have to go to a store and you need to buy something and you bring that something with you because you don't know how it is called. And now with Google Lens, for instance, you just point with the camera to that things and Google Lens is telling you what it is. So you can start a search. But many times for information query, even if when we are still in the awareness or exploration phase, we don't really know how to define what we want. So ChatGPT is, I think that people use a lot ChatGPT for this,
Yeah.
to to have a better idea what they want. And so
Mm.
when finally they define what we want,
It's for
yes,
quality. Mm.
there will be someone that clicks on the sources presented by ChatGPT. But I also saw stats that were presenting to us that there is a huge overlap between people searching GPT on ChatGPT and people then searching also in Google, because it is this massive info it also between Google and ChatGPT. And what we see is as if, okay, all the tons of frustrating searches that I would have done on Google, I resolve them with a relatively short conversation on ChatGPT.
Mm.
And then I can go to Google and straightly ask and search the things that I really need to search.
Exactly. This is as well kind of like where we see not just on ChatGPT or on social networks. It's like if you don't get the results or the user don't get the results they're expecting, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna go and try it again on TikTok and find refine my search or find more ideas and then come back. So yeah, sources of alternative sources to Google are being used as a source of clarity, and then come back to Google. Possibly that might change with AI modes, you know. But so far, and what I was talking about, people going to ChatGPT because what I was talking very basically earlier was from an e-commerce point of view, because as a personal user, if I live on ChatGPT, but it's mostly for all sorts, like anything from recipe, especially when you see in a book. I still use books for recipes, you know, like for example, I have a book that is nearly 20 years old where it has how to make macarons for like that is the book. There's tons of books on how to make macarons, but that one in particular is really good. But so it gives you the measurements to make 50 macarons, and I'm like, I don't want so many. Then I copy the recipe and I'm like, how can I adapt this recipe for 10 macarons? And then it gives me the right measurements. I follow the process and voila, yeah, I get 10, 12. So that's kind of like for what I use for clarity, as you say, when you see something, clarity for queries. And obviously, yes, like to create stuff. Well,
Yes. Okay, Maria,
AdSense.
I would love to continue.
Oh,
As
me
I would
too.
love to continue so
Yeah.
many talks with all the guests. But
Mm.
before closing, I
Mm.
would like to ask you a really quick question
A ver.
about you.
Mm.
A ver. Just a really quick question about you, but in so that our watchers, our listeners can know you
Yeah.
not just as the SEO you are, as the professional you are, but the Maria you are.
Yeah.
So let's start. For our public, Maria,
Mm.
she is from Mexico. So I'm going to
Sure.
do some question also about her heritage. For instance, what is the most, one is like nostalgic. What is the thing you miss the most of your country?
Oh my gosh, the weather. I know it's ridiculous, but the weather is in kind of like in a chronological timeline because it's so stable, the weather over there, that you know what's going to happen. And obviously, being that kind of person who likes routines, you know, in January, this is how the weather is going to look. And I grew up for many years with that timeline on my head. And then I moved to the UK, and that and just that, or having that constant on the weather, and also and that's not a problem. I mean, I love the unpredictability of the weather here, and that obviously, like it is now, I absolutely love it. Right now, as the weather is like cloudy, I love cloudy weather, not hot, not cold, tiny bit of rain, summer rain in the afternoon. That is my ideal weather. Or hot weather and sunset. That's why I live near Brighton because I absolutely love going to the beach and see the sunset in the summer. But what I miss the most is ridiculous. but it's the shade of blue of the skies in Mexico. It's some type of
Yes,
blue
yes, I
that,
remember it. I remember it. I
yeah,
remember it when I visited Mexico, and I
and
remember it's the same,
yeah,
and it's maybe it's can sound absurd to you, but it's the same blue, but it's the same blue of the blue house of Frida Kahlo in
yes.
Coyoacán.
It's a very intense kind of nice
It's
blue
intense. Yeah.
that I also love from this country. What I love is because I'm not used to anymore to the hot weather. I just love like cloudy weather. Like I know it's crazy, but in winter, I absolutely love when it gets dark early. I know I just love it. Like for example, I know it's crazy, especially when you are traveling on the train. When I come into the office and you leave in the morning and it's dark and you come out of the office, even if you leave at 4 p.m. In December, it's dark. So I just love that, and yeah, I mean, I love both places. For one thing, obviously, home is home. In Mexico now, home here as well. I recently went to New York, and I'm like, oh, I just want to go home. I was saying to someone, and this person looked at me like, where? And I'm like, oh, back to the UK. That was a bit odd. But I just, yeah, I like both places. And what I miss the most from Mexico is being back from the family, is the food, and sometimes the weather because, yeah. I,
Yeah. And just to have fun. It's really not meant to offend. But what is
no, I mean, no.
the most Mexican stereotype that you recognize to yourself?
Oh, and myself.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's the language. When I speak Spanish, when I'm like, for example, with people I feel comfortable with, like yourself, it's like at some point, it's like, oh my God, as we say, lo florido, the Florida
Oh yeah,
language
yes.
just comes out.
Yeah, yeah, the Spanish
Ah,
Spanish accent, which is somehow as a little bit singing.
um, so the most stereotypical thing I have is the language. Spanish in Mexico that doesn't mean it's bad. It's different, yes, because
Yes.
it's different. But we are very creative with the language. Mexican people, we are very creative with our language, and we invent words. Or we're super creative in the language, and that's something that just comes out. I love when I'm in a comfortable environment. I love making people laugh a lot. If that person that you see on Twitter and on X and on social networks, and you might see now, it's a completely different person that you see normally when I'm at home or just ask Jerry. I just I love singing, or concerning us, making jokes, and yeah, that's me. I mean, those people who have been that close to me, like Jerry in the past and some other friends as well. I'm thinking if someone else is watching, someone who works at agency called Kantar, do you know who you are? He might be thinking as well, yeah, you're a little bit nuts. But yeah, that's true. That's me pretty much.
And now you are working for a big travel company. So
Mhm.
the question is quite obvious. What is the place that you still have to visit that is in your bucket list?
I did, first of all, in terms of, I'm not traveling. I was going to swear, but no, not here. I love traveling, and in my early 20s, what I did when I was a student and I didn't have much money. So what I did was traveling around the whole of Mexico. It's very diverse. Mexico, from the north to the south to the coast, the Gulf of Mexico or Latin America, Gulf of Mexico, yeah, it's called like that. And then the Pacific is very, very diverse. So I did that. Obviously, I've been around Europe a couple of times, and every time, wherever I go, I am a bit of a tourist. I'm easily someone who easily gets impressed by wherever I go. Switzerland, every time I go to Switzerland or Zurich, and I get like just stayed on the airport. I'm like, this is the most silent airport I've ever been. versus the one in Mexico City when you're a bit crazy. I've been to Mexico City, obviously Mexico, the whole of Mexico, and in Europe, Zurich, one of my favorite places. In the UK, oh my God, Wales. We have some incredible beaches in Wales, Brighton, Edinburgh, and in the UK as well. There's so much as well for a good staycation. Um, and my bucket list, which is going to happen, hopefully everything goes well, is going to Thailand. So I'm going to Thailand in October. It's a place called Phuket, I believe. So I haven't explored that side of the world. I've been into to the US. I've been to obviously Mexico, South America, and Argentina. Um, but I haven't been yet to like
To the east part of the
islands.
world.
Yeah, or the Middle East. As far as I went to the Middle East was Turkey and Lebanon, but that was it.
Mhm.
Beirut. But yeah, as well, that side of the world is what I would love to explore. But yeah,
And I wish you to fulfill your dream. Thank you,
thank you.
Maria. It was a
Thank you,
great pleasure to
Gianluca.
stay with you and to share a very interesting conversation with things that usually are not told, like what we have said about everything
Winning.
image and all the information that you give us from your experience working with different departments, different types of brands, and different types of search.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much, Gianluca. Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.